All right. Welcome in to another Toilets to Titles breakdown of an NFL team 2020 preview. Today I'm going to be previewing the Washington football team. I'm not sure if there are too many of you looking forward to this, but I'll tell you this. If you play IDP, this is a IDP heavy episode because their defense is pretty sound, pretty solid, and has a few guys ready to break out. Before I get into all that, I do want to let you know you can follow the show on Twitter at Toilets to Titles. You can follow me on Twitter. You can see at the bottom over here at Coach Sheps. My buddy Justin's at JustinFF_. My guy Nate is at Nate_Dirt19. If you're finding us on Twitter because you're looking up breakdowns for your team, we do have a fantasy football podcast. We do weekly episodes. We're going to be releasing them Wednesday in season, and we're going to be doing start sits, streamers, all the good stuff we'll be doing. We'll be doing it about 40 to 50 minutes. We'll try to get it crunched in there for you. We have a YouTube channel, Podbean, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And if you head to our Twitter link, even in the show notes here, you should be able to find the links to that podcast. So again, we're doing weekly episodes. Just the other day, we had Shane Hallam on from FakePigskin.com. He's a great NFL draft analyst of players. We talked about draft-eligible players that are going into the season that you should be jotting down their names so you can go out and watch them this year. We talked guys that opted out that you can go back and study that are draft-eligible. We also talked Heisman odds. So if you're a betting person and you are looking to see who's a good bet, who's somebody to put some money on that you could win, you definitely want to listen to that. There was a lot of good stuff in there. All right, and the week before that, we had a great episode. We talked all season, me, Justin, and Nate. Any episode we did, rankings, whatever, and one of us liked one guy, one of us liked another guy. We liked him enough, we'd say, hey, throw that on the board. I'll take this cat, you'll take that cat. And what we ended up doing, we made a bathroom board that's going to be bets, and what we're going to do at the end of the season. Well, we talked about those, right? So we talked about who versus who, why we picked this guy, why you picked that guy. And we basically put them head-to-head, put each other head-to-head. Then we did some bold predictions at the end, and we're going to be announcing, we're going to go over all those at the end of the season, see who was right, who was wrong, and then we'll have a winner, and we'll do something fun with the loser. All right, so I'd recommend go check the bathroom board episode out. We got some time to kill. We got a week till the NFL season, so might as well kill some time by listening to some good football conversation. So that being said, I think we're ready to talk the Washington football team. So to start this out, we're going to talk fantasy studs, all right? And the stud they have is Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry. He was wide receiver 24 in 2019, and that was 93 targets, 58 receptions, 919 yards, and 7 touchdowns. All right, I have him as my wide receiver 11. You can go find our rankings at fusionffb.com. You'll see our rankings along with Joshua and Joshua Bigby. And he's the owner of FusionFFB.com and was gracious enough to let us put our rankings on there with his. And then they get averaged out. But I have him at wide receiver 11. I'm expecting big things from him. I like him a lot. He'll probably be the only bright spot in that offense. It'll hurt because defenses will be focusing on him and trying to shut him down. So it'll be tough for him to finish at wide receiver 11, but I do think he can get it done. What I do think, I think he'll be scoring a lot of garbage time points. So I think, people will be checking in. There'll be games where he's probably not doing much, during the first quarter, maybe even by the end of the first half. But all you have to do is look at the end result. I think he's going to end up scoring points in garbage time. That'll help him. He's a good player, and defenses will be backing off a little bit. He'll get the job done. I think he'll be scoring great points weekly. Defenses will be doing what they can to stop him, but he'll still score. So look for a lot of garbage time points from Terry McLaurin. Now, stay tuned for Breakout. This is where I have the bulk of, the players here. The first guy I want to mention is a guy that Nate really likes, and that's Steven Sims. Can he be the Robin to Terry's Batman? Someone needs to step up, and it looks like it'll likely be him. During Haskins' best weeks last year, week 14 and 15, he saw 11 and 10 targets. Well, that's phenomenal. All right, if he can haul in 6 to 7 of those in PPR, that's 6 or 7 points right there. All right, him and Dwayne have chemistry. He scored 4 touchdowns over the final 3 games. So, 6, 7, targets, 7 receptions, that's 7 points, a touchdown, that's 13 points right there. Now you add in 50, 60 yards, that's an 18-point week. So if he could do that consistently, you can't count on touchdowns consistently, but if 6 or 7 receptions, 60 yards, it's 11, 12. That's wide receiver 3 right there on your roster. That's startable weekly. So he'll start in the slot, should have some decent garbage time points as well. They'll be moving the ball. They'll be playing from behind. So, I think he's worth a stash in a league where you start 3 wide receivers, because you might be able to start him as a wide receiver 3 or flex. Another guy I want to mention is Antonio Gibson. For the first few weeks of the offseason, it looked like Adrian Peterson was the guy, and then Bryce Love was starting to get some attention. Now the writing on the wall is reading it's Gibson season, right? Gibson carried the ball 33 times last year in Memphis, averaging 11.2 yards per carry, while hauling in 38 receptions, 735 yards with a 19.3 yards per reception. He's got the makings of a playmaker. Ron Rivera, he's coming from an offense where he had Christian McCaffrey, a guy who could do it all. He may have visions of that in this backfield. It's definitely going to be, 2 or 3 steps below. But again, there's going to be garbage time. There's going to be dump offs. This guy can move. He could catch. So I think this guy's going to benefit from that as well. The O-line's pretty bad, so I don't expect them to be running straight into them. But they're going to find ways to be creative, get the ball out of Haskins' hands quick, get it to this cat, let him make some moves. So we can probably expect 4 to 5 receptions from him a game. That would be, pretty solid. And then expect him to take one of those to the house every now and then, because he's got electric ability, playmaking ability. So let's see if they get him out in space and let him play. Dwayne Haskins, I didn't know where to put him. Stay tuned for Breakout or beware of letdown. I think he's somewhere in the middle. He threw 4 interceptions in his first 22 attempts last year. Not very good, all right? He topped 80 QBR only once in a 7-game span, the 7 games prior to week 14, and most of them were like 48, 51, 60. So really, not good. He wasn't even close to 80 most of the time. But week 14 and week 15, he had 121 quarterback rating and 143. So the arrow is pointing up. I'm not sure if he's worth the stash, in regular, I wouldn't keep him on my roster in 1 quarterback leagues, but in super flex leagues, I'd put him at the end of my bench. The offensive line is bad. They're going to have to get the ball out of his hands quickly, but he's got Terry McLaurin. He's got some chemistry with Steven Sims, and he's going to benefit from being able to get the ball out to a running back. So those yards are his, 8, 10 yard, that's also, those are easy receptions, I think. The short yardage to the running back, the dump off. So, check down Charlie, that's fine. That's enough, especially when you got a cat who can move. Another guy who's receiving buzz is Logan Thomas. He's the tight end 1 now. He came into the NFL as a quarterback. He's slowly been transitioning to the tight end. He's 29 years old. Again, there's balls to go around. Terry McLaurin's the guy. Steven Sims, maybe. Antonio Gibson, maybe. Can Logan Thomas get it done? I don't know. In tight end premium leagues where you start 2 tight ends, I might stash him on my bench, but I don't know how much I'm expecting from him, but I'd stay tuned. All right. Now, beware of letdown. Everyone I listed, besides Steven Sims, I think if you're expecting a lot from them, you could be let down. I wouldn't expect much. Anything I get from those guys is bonus. I would just be nervous. I wouldn't put all my eggs in an Antonio Gibson basket. If you're counting on him to be a running back 2 or running back 3 out the gate, I wouldn't be too comfortable with that. I'd have him on my bench, and then maybe a flex play. If he could turn into that, that's great. But I wouldn't be putting my eggs in that basket. If you're counting on Adrian Peterson to be your running back 2, you'll be in trouble. All right, that offensive line is not very good. He's not going to be running downhill. It's not the Hogs of years past, okay? It's nowhere near that. And AP isn't the workhorse he used to be. So if he's your running back 2, you are in trouble. Now, Mr. Reliable, there really isn't one outside of Terry McLaurin, but he was their dude. So I'm not, Now, that being said, Mr. Reliable, we're going to go into the IDP portion here, and I think you have a lot of reliable players in the IDP, like on the defensive side of the ball for the Washington football team. Lots of dudes on the defense. I'm going to start with Josh Allen. He finished at defensive end 21, playing in 15 games last year. Now, again, this is a D-line. He was D-lineman number 21, actually. So not just defensive ends. I generally don't like starting defensive ends if you don't have the DE classification. I like starting D tackles or guys that get tackles because D ends are very, pass rushing D ends are very sack dependent. But D ends in a 3-4 scheme also play the run and they're more like D tackles, and they get a lot of tackles, like guys like DeForest Buckner, Arik Armstead. But Jonathan Allen eats. All right, 46 tackles last year, 22 assists, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks. Great numbers. He's startable weekly on a DL format. And then if you have a D end, you start him at D end, this is the guy I want to start because he's even better at D end in those formats than he is as a DL. So bump him up there. I think you're going to see those numbers increase with offenses having to focus on Chase Young. So look for him to eat even more. Okay, I think you can see above 50 tackles, 30 assists, about 10 tackles for loss, and maybe about 8 sacks. So he's going to jump up. I expect him to finish DN 15 or D lineman 15 or higher. Chase Young, this guy is an animal. He's a defensive rookie of the year candidate. And like I said, I generally don't like pass rushing D ends in IDP because they're extremely sack dependent. But this guy looks like he could be going for 14, 15 sacks, maybe like 40 tackles. And that would be a phenomenal season. In IDP dynasty leagues, I saw him go as high as 10 overall in the rookie draft. And you generally don't see that from a D lineman, maybe linebackers. But people have very high expectations for him. He looks the part. Offenses are going to be focusing on him. He's going to be going against La'el Collins or Tyron Smith in Dallas. Philly's D-line is pretty decimated, so he's got two games against that, and the Giants aren't too good either. So he's going to have 4 games with pretty good matchups. So he should be able to eat. Let's see how he does. Let's move back to linebackers. Now, Reuben Foster. It's a name that a lot of people aren't paying attention to or don't really remember. He was taken 31st overall in 2017, recorded 73 tackles in 10 games. So do the math, that's 7 tackles a game. Very good. Hasn't played much since then with trouble and injuries. All right. He's going into his 4th year in the NFL with a new team coming off injury. He's fresh. If he can return to his old form, where I'm seeing this guy go, I'm seeing him go on waivers. People are forgetting this cat. Or, in redraft leagues, he's going late. He's going to be a linebacker 1. Now, if you could draft him as your linebacker 3 or 4, because I wouldn't count on Reuben Foster to give me 16. But if he can give me 8 to 10, that's 8 to 10 weeks where my linebacker 3 is giving me linebacker 1 numbers, and that's what I want. So again, I don't want him as my LB1. I want Darius Leonard, Leighton Vander Esch, Tremaine Edmonds. Those are guys, I want there. But if I can take him as my 3 is going to be putting up solid numbers for the week. He is healthy. All right. The next guy is Cole Holcomb. He finished linebacker 45 last year. That puts him, I play in leagues where you start 3 to 4 linebackers. So I was starting him weekly when he was playing, at the end of my roster. And he was a role player and he played well. I think you're going to see more playing time from him this year. I think you're going to see him and Reuben Foster out there a lot. I could see him bump up to a linebacker 3. I think he's going to finish somewhere between 30 and 35, So that's a linebacker 3 guy, but he has a linebacker 2 ceiling. I like Cole Holcomb a lot. He's going on waivers as well. He's going at the end of most IDP drafts. So this is a guy who you could start as your linebacker 4 weekly, and he's got LB3, LB2 upside. All right, lots of tackles. He's a tackling machine. The last guy I want to talk about on that defense is Landon Collins. He might have played the best out of all of these guys. I know Jonathan Allen had a good year, but Landon Collins had a great year. He was the number 7 overall DB in 2019, and that was playing in 15 games. So one more game, he probably could have finished top 5. He returned to his original form, how he played with the Giants early on. My personal IDP strategy is I'll take a box safety over a deep safety any day of the week, because that box safety, he's involved in a lot more plays, which is a lot more opportunities for tackles, assists, breakups, tackles for loss, even quarterback hits. If your league scores for that, he's got the ability to do that. He had 78 tackles last year, 39 assists, 9.5 tackles for loss, and a sack. I worry about him taking a regression because the Washington football team isn't very good. But let's see if his pride makes him dominate regardless, because he's going to be on a dominant defense with a lot of young talent. So that might, give him some energy. And they're going to be playing for respect because teams are looking at them as a joke. And this defense hopefully takes that to heart and plays tough. This could be a top 5 to 10 defense this year. It definitely could, because I'm naming studs, and there's some guys that I didn't even mention. All right, so that's the breakdown for the Washington football team. Hopefully that helped you. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and any comments, any guys I missed, or any thoughts on the guys that I mentioned, or if you want to reach out to me directly, again, you can find me on Twitter at Coach Sheps. My DMs are open, and I'm always willing to talk football. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you watching. We'd really appreciate if you subscribe to the podcast, the YouTube channel, like I said, but also the podcast Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes, or you could find that on our Twitter account. It's at Toilets to Titles. We'll be releasing episodes in season every Wednesday morning, and it's going to get you completely prepared for the upcoming week. We're even going to be talking DFS. We're even going to be talking about bets, locks. So we're going to have everything covered. I suggest you subscribe, get on board with Toilets to Titles, and look forward to talking to you in season. Take care.